a lot of what I've read recently, I've read a few books on successful marriages and how to keep your marriage happy and things. And everything that I've read has said, you know, you need to take divorce off the table. Mm-hmm. This is another one for me that I struggle with because I have deal breakers. I feel like there are some things that if they were to happen, I don't know. I don't think that I could continue in the relationship. Is that an agreement that the two of you have come to in your relationship, that divorce is off the table, or is it something that you've talked about?
It's funny that you ask that question, and it takes me back to when we got married. We wrote our own, and in our own, we said divorce is not an option. Wow. Because our primary focus at that time was the kids. And if you're this close to mine, and you're this close to mine, and we're doing all these things together, and then they're bonding as siblings,
how can you separate?
How can, you know, we're creating this situation for them. They didn't ask for that. So now that we're doing this, how do you come to them and then change that? Mm-hmm. However, we have had conversations about, you know, those deal breaker things. And the only thing that I can really say about that is I think that as time goes on and things happen within your marriage, your thoughts about some of those things may not change how you feel about them, but sometimes you end up being in a different space about them once it happens. Mm-hmm. That's like anything else. You know, you can talk about, oh, if that was me, I wouldn't do this or I wouldn't do that. And not knowing that in the event that it happened to you, for, you know, whatever the circumstances may be, how you would react and respond to it, and whether you would be willing or in a space, you know, after some time to sit down, go through counseling, you know, to kind of discuss some of the issues and really get to the root of what created the impasse, and try to see if it's fixable, you know, if both parties are in the game.
That's an interesting perspective, and I think, you know, it's true that you say that. If you have been married 1 year and something were to happen, mm-hmm. you probably would be more apt to walk away from mm-hmm. it. But if you've been married 15 years, mm-hmm. You may look at it a little differently. So that's an interesting perspective. So you said something earlier, I know if it were me kind of thing, and we often talk about, whether we intend to or not, we talk about our relationships mm-hmm. with our friends, with our family, mm-hmm. and is that something that you've done in the past, or do you try to keep things close to the vest? How do you feel about talking with your friends about your relationship?
There are specific people that I share details regarding my marriage, and even then some of those details are limited. Mm-hmm. As far as, you know, when you say family, this is very limited, because it takes it to another level. Because if I go to my mom and I tell my mother details about something that has hurt me, and she hears the hurt, she's a mom. I'm her only child. Mm-hmm. She's going to be on my side. Yeah. And so then once some time has passed, he and I have talked about it, we've worked it out, we've talked through it. Because my mom is who she is, she won't, but some family members don't. They can't recover. They don't recover. And so that puts your spouse in a bad situation with your family. Mm-hmm. They're not as forgiving. I learned that a long time ago. But when I say, you know, select people, non-judgmental, and people that for me, it's people that I've been friends with or have had a relationship with for years. Mm-hmm. So they've been with me, you know, in school, you know, grade school. So I know that there's no judgment there, and I know that there would not be any reason for it to be discussed aside from the discussion that I
So
would
they're
have
not
with
telling
others.
people about your business.
Exactly. Because that's major, you know, and also with that being said, because you still have to be careful, because your friends are your friends.
Your friends.
And of course they will say, you know, I'm your friend first. But at the same time, my friends will also say, but I love Macia, you know, and I want to see y'all. That's how you know that that person is for you and for, you know, supports you and supports your marriage and wants to see the best, you know, come to you guys. But I don't suggest that, you know, because you have to be very, very careful, because sometimes you feel like people are cheering for you
And they may not be.
really are, you're not.
Do you think it's important to have married friends?
I do. Because if you don't, you can find yourself in a situation that you shouldn't be in. And you also don't know how your spouse may feel about that either. Because most of the time, single people are going to want to do single things. So then your spouse may feel excluded, you know, more often than not. You have to have balance, you know, so I have some that are not, but I also have, you know, some that are, and the ones that are, we try to make it a point that even if you and I are friends, we make it a point to make time so that as couples, we can all go out and, you know, have a good time, have dinner, you know, whether it's just go to each other's house, kind of, you know, eat, have some snacks, drinks, chit chat.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, I think one of the things I talked about was transitioning from being single to being married, and that was very difficult. None of my friends were married when I got married, and so it was a very different dynamic, because now there is somebody, not that you have to answer to, but someone that you have to give the respect and the common courtesy to. Maybe I shouldn't spend all of my expendable cash on alcohol this week. Maybe I should have a conversation before planning on going on a girls trip, you know. And while you may now have that consideration in your mind because you're married, your friends don't have that. They don't understand that
because they don't have that piece. And so then, you know, if you don't have mature single friends, then it turns into almost like peer pressure, you know, because you can get the negative feedback, like you said, because you don't understand. You've never been in the situation, so you don't know how this works over here, type thing.
So you mentioned earlier the blend that you guys blended your families together, and there were some challenges that you weren't necessarily prepared for, if you will, after going to premarital counseling. Do you care to share some of the difficulties in blending your two families and how you overcame them?
The biggest piece for me, and this is my perspective, because my husband probably would have a different one, is that we have different parenting styles. And so, of course, my children were used to my parenting style.
Right.
And because I am a mom, and their dad was not in the house, moving to a new state and moving in to a house with a dad full time. And this is an active dad. This is not a dad that's always at work, and mommy is still doing everything pretty much. No, this dad is at home more than mommy's at home. So this dad is there in the mornings as you're preparing to go to school, and he's there in the evenings once you come home from school. So, oh, what's that? Hey, I saw you. Let me see your book bag. He's on
Being a parent.
He's on it.
Yeah.
Whereas with me, what they were used to was almost like I couldn't give it 150% attention because I didn't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
I was going and coming and trying to do everything as much as I could. So a lot of stuff got missed by default. So it was very...
Not that you were being a bad mother.
Right. It's just I was doing the best that I could, but I wasn't able to do all the necessary checks and balances. So I had 2 eyes. Now we had 4. And it's a male perspective. It's a daddy perspective. So it was challenging. It was hard for me to let go. It's still hard today. That is, it has been a major issue because I always just felt like I have to look out for them. It doesn't matter. It's nothing against you. It's not that I wouldn't have married you if I thought you would do something to them or hurt them or whatever. No. But it's, no, I get it. Oh, okay. So what did you say? And those things have created issues because he started to feel like he didn't have a voice or that his voice didn't matter. And it wasn't necessarily that it didn't matter. It was just like, I can veto. I can veto. One way or the other. I hear you. And all of that sounds good. Sort of. But we're not going to do it like that. And so that was me.
So that also ties back to the whole submission thing too.
Right.
So, I'm laughing not out of, because I find it funny. It's really because I had the same situation.
Right.
Coming into a relationship as the stepmother, you don't get a rule book on how to deal with children.
No.
And all I know is what my mom did and my dad did and how strict they were raising us. Ray came from a single parent household. And he was with his mother, so there was no dad in the home. And so the things that I saw my dad doing with us are the things that I expect Ray to do with his son. He didn't have that experience. And so it's just like, this is what you need to do. And I have to remind myself of that often, that he didn't have that experience and he's going to approach this completely different than I did. And I did have those feelings of, does my voice matter? And he always had the veto, because he was the dad, and then there was this other mom there too, right? So there were those challenges in our relationship as well because of the blended family. As time grew on, it became easier, I assume.
A little.
You said you still have some of them.
Yes, because the style is still different. Like nothing changed. The kids got older. The years passed, but nothing changed as far as his perspective versus mine. Things that I may look at as very minor, really in the grand scheme of it is not that major.
And I may be like, what?
Right. And so, and that's what, and so then we end up in conflict because then he's like, what? Like you just said, it's not major. Then something's wrong with you because, and so then it turns into, it's not even about the kids anymore. It's he and I. Oh, how you gonna tell me it's something wrong with me? And so.
Oh my God.
Right. It just, there have been so many different things, different episodes, scenarios that my opinion was one thing and his was something else. And, I have a older daughter and 2 sons. So of course with the boys, he was, you can't tell them you've never been a boy, And so I'm like, okay, no, I've never been a boy and I won't be a boy, but I'm their mama, So then it again turns into a back and forth type thing. But it is definitely a challenge to be non-traditional. It is definitely a challenge. It has its blessings, definitely. We've had a lot of fun, together with the original 5. The Atlanta Huxtables, before it got a bad name. And then it continues to expand, now with my oldest 2 having their own and his oldest having his own. So it's new challenges because now, as Nani and Poppy, the perspective is still different because my parenting style hasn't changed. But it's very different watching him as Poppy than him as dad or as stepdad.
Is he more lenient as Poppy?
Oh, my goodness.
Maybe spoiling them kids?
Yes. Yes, he does. So,
well, that's what Poppies and Nani are supposed to do.
It's just a little different. So I'm like, well, if you could have been a little more calm and laid back.
Maybe he's just old now.
Maybe that's really what it is.
He's tired.
I guess so. Because we had the 4-year-old over here today, and he was like, Poppy, 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 and singing songs. And we woke up this morning to, I want to watch Transformers. I want to watch Transformers. And that's what we woke up to. Like, literally, he was just in the bed chanting it. So it's, and then finally he just, Carter, hush, and ask us to watch it. So it's rewarding. It definitely is. But you got to get through it, to get to the other side.
And, I read something the other day, and I actually think I posted it. It said, a lot of people don't understand that the better comes after the worst sometimes. And sometimes the worst may last a little longer than you want it to, but when you get to the other side, it's so
worth it. You feel like it was worth it. Now, you would rather have not had the experience, but
you're better because you did.
Yep.